Underneath these specifics, we are all navigating some version of the same questions. Why? Because they are human ones. Hello, 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 and welcome to More Than Money, a podcast where we have nuanced conversations about money, business, and life, where we take the time to explore the human side of money because success with money is never just about the numbers. I'm your host, Jacquette Timmons, and whether this is your very first episode or you are joining me for another, I am really, really glad that you've taken some time to spend it with me today. So let's get into it. When I share my story of Mr. Bethune and his "when are you going to stop mortgaging your life" question, or how a prospect once told me that the reason they didn't hire me was because I didn't own an apartment, when I share these stories, the responses I get tell me everything about how universal these experiences really are. Yes, it's true. The details of these stories and the feelings that they sparked for me are specific to me. Yet, it's almost as if everyone can relate to recognizing a pattern that they were living out, even if it took someone else to bring it to their attention, or that feeling of having someone judge their choices. And it's also true that they contain universal truths about identity, belonging, and what we believe we deserve. Poems do something similar. They express one specific, intimate story that manages to create space for everyone to feel like it was written just for them. When you take a snapshot of the condition of your finances and your relationship with money right now, what do you notice? What do you feel? What feels so incredibly personal to you? If you are going through a particularly challenging time right now, do you notice that this context makes it feel even more personal? What happens when you zoom out? What elements of your story would you describe as universal? We're constantly doing this dance between what's personal and universal because it is ever present. And I see this all the time. Most recently, during a speaking engagement that happened last month, I had the pleasure of speaking on a panel leading with financial confidence, money, women, and leadership. I shared the dais with Carol Choi and Ruchi Pinniger, and the event was hosted by the Zeta Nu Omega chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Society Incorporated, the AKAs. And the facilitator was Raisha Aman, an AKA. And she kicked off the panel by having each of us describe our relationship with money and how it evolved over time. Not surprisingly, I shared my Mr. Bethune story and how it taught me that what I need from money and what it needs from me evolves. It's also what gave me a better understanding of the fact that what shows up in my relationship with money is my relationship with myself, with my business, and my clients, and the degree to which I am putting them, i.e., my clients, before me. And yes, if you're wondering, there was definitely an audible reaction when I shared Mr. Bethune's poignant question. Ruchi shared a childhood memory of going to school where all of her classmates were wealthy and had designer things, and how she equated that with being happy. And the context of that was that her family was not wealthy. And the impact that this had on her was that during her formative years, she thought that once she could buy fancy things, that she too would be happy, only to discover that you can't enjoy material things if you don't feel whole inside. Now, that's not to be confused and conflated with don't have nice things. You can have nice things. But her point was that if you are empty on the inside, nothing externally is going to close that gap or heal that gap or make you feel full. Carol um, shared how curiosity helped her to shift from believing that if you weren't born wealthy, well, then that's your lot in life. And it took her asking some really hard questions, including why her education wasn't translating into a fuller financial life, before she could see just how deeply her upbringing and culture had shaped her relationship with money. That recognition and her decision to reject the starving artist trope that she had internalized, that is what shapes how she shows up for her clients as a financial advisor, which is how she works, who meets people where they are. You've got three women, three different stories, three completely different entry points into their understanding of their relationship with money. And yet, the same room, the same head nods of recognition, the same collective exhale of, yes, me too. This is what poetry does at its best. Mary Oliver, watching a grasshopper in a field, becomes a meditation on what it means to be alive. Lucille Clifton, writing about her body, becomes a testament about worthiness and belonging. The detail is specific. The truth it carries belongs to everyone. Your money story works the same way. The particulars are yours alone. The family dinner table where money was never discussed, the first paycheck that you were proud of, the financial decision you are still second guessing, the number that makes you feel safe or safer, the number that makes you feel ashamed. Those details are intimate. They are also, in the most profound way, everyone's. Because underneath these specifics, we are all navigating some version of the same questions. Do I deserve this? Am I enough? Will there be enough? What does money say about who I am? These aren't financial questions, although they may sometimes feel as if they are. The truth of the matter is that they were never financial questions, and they were never financial questions because they are human ones. And that's really the final parallel that I will leave you with as we close out this series on poetry and money, because poetry and money are both at their core about the search for meaning. The poet searches for the right word to hold an experience that resists language. You search for the right relationship with money to hold a life that feels like your own. The work in both cases is deeply personal, and it connects you to something far larger than yourself. Over the last three episodes, we explored what poetry and money have in common in terms of the silence that shapes us, the rhythms that we repeat, and now the universal truths hiding inside our most personal financial details. If anything in this series stirred something in you, a recognition, a discomfort, a question you haven't been able to shake, I'd invite you to bring that to a conversation. A discovery call is the perfect place where we can start. It's a chance to look honestly at where you are, what patterns might be running in the background, and whether working together is the right next step for us to take. Because here's what I know after years of doing this work. The moment you decide to examine your money story with curiosity and not judgment, that's the moment that everything becomes possible. So send me a DM on Instagram, just say discovery call, and I'll make sure that you get the scheduling link. And if you've listened to these last three episodes about poetry and money, thank you. I had no idea, but National Poetry Month gave me an unexpected gift this year. And that is a new way to talk about the work that I love the most. And you know what? I hope it gave you something worth sitting with too. Well, that is a wrap for today, folks. As always, thank you so much for listening or maybe even watching if you are joining me over there on YouTube. If you've liked what you've heard today or this podcast overall, please take a moment and share it with those in your circle so that we can reach more people than we ever could on our efforts alone. And if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please take a moment to leave a rating and a review if you haven't done so already. And I am asking for both because it helps us with the algorithm. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel and leave a comment there as well. And it's summer and I love me a dirty chai iced latte with oat. And so if you'd like to buy me a coffee, here's how you can do that. Buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. Buymeacoffee.com/Jaquette. I'll be back with another episode. I hope you will too. Until then, remember, it's about more than money.